Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right in to unpack the incredibly dense and beautiful poetic metaphors of Satinder Sartaj's song Imtihan. If you've ever really thought about the journey of love, well, you know it's rarely a walk in the park. So let's dive right in and unravel exactly how Sartaj captures this whole experience.
Now check out this dramatic hook. Those who awakened your desire, they're yet to put you through trials. This tells us right off the bat that love, at least in this text, isn't just some warm, fuzzy feeling. No, it is a grueling, inescapable test. The literal same entity that sparks that deep yearning inside you. Yeah, they're the exact one who's going to put you through the ringer. Talk about setting up an incredible paradox right from the start.
Okay, let's dive into the actual structure here. The lyrics map out a clear, linear progression of the lover's journey in three distinct phases. First up, the awakening of desire. Second, facing the trials and cruelty. And finally, turning the throne into a blossom.
Section 1. The Inception. The absolute beginning of love.
So, Sartaj frames this initial spark of romance in a deeply spiritual context. Just listen to this. Even now, it's the beginning of love. The first call to prayer has come. Let the weight of that religious metaphor really sink in for a second. This isn't just about catching someone's eye across a crowded room. This is a divine summons. It commands the exact kind of reverence, dedication, and immediate response that a call to prayer demands from the faithful.
And this brilliantly illustrates how love is essentially treated as a religion in these lyrics. By equating the start of love with the sacred first call to prayer, the artist elevates romantic desire to a literal spiritual duty. It's basically telling the listener, hey, the path you're about to walk down, it's holy, and it requires a profound, unbreakable commitment right out of the gate.
Moving on to Section 2, the testing ground, measuring intentions.
Here's where things shift. That pure spiritual awakening immediately transitions into a period of severe testing. The beloved, or honestly, maybe the universe itself, demands literal proof of your dedication. Quote, have to see some of your limits and have to measure your intentions. It's as if the world is looking at you and saying, oh, you say you're devoted? Prove it. Before you get any kind of reward, the depth of your truth has to be quantified. Basically, how much can you take and how pure is your intent? And these are the lover's specific hurdles. Having your limits seen, having your intentions measured, enduring inflicted pain, and weathering great storms. In the song, the chorus repeats this concept of trials over and over again, and that cyclical repetition, absolutely not an accident. It perfectly represents love's ongoing, totally exhausting trials. Literally, just when you clear one hurdle, boom, another one gets thrown right in your path.
And then we get the harsh justification for all of this suffering. That's why they inflict pain. That's why they are cruel and relentless. The text actually gives us a direct reason for all the pain. The cruelty isn't just random. It's presented as a totally necessary measurement of true devotion. If love is a religion, then this pain is your ultimate test of faith. The beloved is cruel precisely to forge the lover into something much stronger.
Which brings us to Section 3, the battlefield, the arrows of betrayal.
Now we're moving away from just internal measurements of intent and getting into literal, physical violence. I really want you to savor the poetry here. The arrows of betrayal are still sharp. The bow of cruelty is drawn. These specific words magnify a brutal, weaponized reality. Love isn't just a test anymore, guys. It is an active war zone. You are dodging sharp arrows, and the bow is drawn and aimed right at you. The vulnerability of being in love means you're entirely exposed to all these weapons.
Now, what's really interesting here is the unbelievable contrast. Sartaj builds immense narrative tension by placing this sacred romance side by side with warfare. On one hand, you've got holy imagery, the call to prayer, the colors of paradise. And on the exact opposite side of violent imagery, arrows, bows, great storms. It perfectly captures the whiplash of profound love, right? It's heaven, but it's also a battlefield, often at the exact same time. And then even the environment itself turns against you. On the shores of love, great storms await. This really highlights the elemental, unavoidable nature of the hardship waiting for the lover. A storm is absolutely not something you can negotiate with. You can't fight the wind or the waves. You just have to grit your teeth and endure them. The shores of love are just battered by pure chaos.
So I have to ask you, and I want you to really think about this for a second. After surviving the arrows of betrayal, after weathering the great storms and enduring relentless cruelty just to prove your intentions, What on earth could possibly await the lover in the end? What kind of reward could ever be worth this level of suffering?
Let's find out in Section 4, the coronation, turning the throne into a blossom. Here we finally move past the violent battlefield to reveal that ultimate reward. In the end, they'll turn the throne into a blossom. This is such a beautifully constructed juxtaposition. I mean, think of a throne. It's hard, it's cold, it's a symbol of rigid royal authority and power. But the lyrics promise that this rigid authority is going to soften. It literally transforms into a blossom, something delicate, organic, fragrant, and alive. All that cruelty finally yields to profound beauty.
And there's this brilliant layer of self-reference tucked in here too. The text translates Sartaj essentially as the singer, or the crown, or the leader among poets. It's a very clever moment where the artist actually places himself right in the middle of this coronation, claiming his well-earned title after enduring all the artistic and emotional trials he's just been singing about.
Which leads us to the final promise of the lyrics. And then, to be colored like paradise, your entire world is still to be painted. That violent, stormy battlefield we saw earlier, it's entirely painted over by a heavenly reward. The blank canvas of a thoroughly tested soul is finally ready to receive the gorgeous colors of paradise.
So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is this: that ultimate reward, a world transformed into paradise, is strictly conditional. It is only granted after the trials. You simply don't get the paradise without the pain. In fact, you could easily argue that the suffering, the limits you had tested, and the intentions that were measured, they are the very paint used to color this paradise. The trial is what makes the reward possible in the first place.
Which leaves us with this final provocative thought. We've seen the spiritual calling, we've walked through the violent storms, and we've glimpsed that blossom on the throne. But I want to turn this poem back on you for a second. Is the paradise of love truly worth enduring those sharp arrows of betrayal? It's a heavy question about the true cost of our own deepest desires, and honestly, it's one only you can answer for yourself. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I hope this deep dive into Imtihan gave you a whole new perspective to chew on today.